All right, I'll start straight away. My name's Mark, and I never thought I'd be the type of guy to get blindsided like this. I was with Jessica for about 4 years before we got engaged, and honestly, I thought we had something solid. We had our ups and downs, sure, but I never imagined she'd cheat on me. Not with my best friend, Ryan. That's what makes it so damn unbelievable now. Things weren't perfect, but they were good enough. Jessica was beautiful, confident, a little bitchy sometimes, but I liked that about her. She had this sharp tongue, always quick with a snarky comment or a clever insult. I guess that should have been a warning sign. Still, I trusted her. I really did, or at least I thought I did. Our relationship had a few cracks, but nothing out of the ordinary, some fights, her getting distant, small lies here and there. She'd brush it off, say I was paranoid or that I was overthinking. She was good at that, deflecting and convincing me everything was fine. She'd even lie about small stuff, like where she was going or who she was seeing, but I always let it slide because I loved her. Plus, she was hot and I was blinded by the idea of us someday tying the knot. Then came the signs that things were really wrong. She started canceling plans last minute, being secretive with her phone, always hiding her screen when I walked into the room, and she'd get defensive when I asked about her whereabouts. I didn't want to believe it, but I kept catching her in little lies. Nothing huge, just enough to make me suspicious. Still, I convinced myself I was overreacting. She'd never cheat, right? The real breakthrough happened about 2 weeks before our wedding when I started snooping around her stuff. I know, bad move, but I was desperate. I needed to know what was really going on. I found her hiding her phone under the pillow, texts from someone I didn't recognize. It was late at night and her messages were flirtatious, suggestive. I saw her calling someone babe, and the way she responded to his texts made my stomach turn. I started digging deeper. That's when I found out she was seeing Ryan behind my back. Not just flirting, full-on cheating. There were pictures of her and Ryan in our cabin where we'd gone last month for a weekend, something she had told me she was working late that weekend. I found receipts of hotel bookings and secret messages about meeting up. The worst part, she lied about everything, claimed she was just talking to Ryan, that it was all innocent, that I was paranoid. She's a master at lying, always has been. That bitch. I was floored, utterly betrayed. I couldn't sleep that night. I'd always trusted her, and now I felt like my entire world was collapsing. I kept asking myself how she could do this, how she could betray me just 2 weeks before we were supposed to be married. It wasn't just about the sex or the lying, that was bad enough, but about the fact that she'd been sneaking around at our favorite weekend cabin where we made so many memories. That place was supposed to be ours, and she turned it into her own personal playground with Ryan. The next day, I confronted her. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I showed her the messages, the pictures, everything I'd found. Her reaction was so typical. It was denial first, then anger. She called me paranoid, accused me of stalking her, said I was insecure and jealous, that she needed space and that I was overreacting. She even called me crazy for snooping through her phone, like I was some stalker or a jealous boyfriend from a soap opera. But I wasn't some jealous idiot. I knew what I saw and I wasn't going to pretend I didn't. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, trying to gaslight me into doubting my own instincts. That made the betrayal even worse. I felt a mixture of rage, sadness, and disappointment. I trusted her with everything, my future, my heart, and she threw it all away for Ryan, who I thought was my friend. I was furious, but I also felt crushed. How could she lie to me so blatantly? How could she look me in the eyes and deny everything, even when I had proof? It was like she thought she was untouchable, that she could get away with it. Honestly, I didn't know what to do after that. Part of me wanted to explode, to tear her apart and make her feel what she'd done to me. But another part just wanted to run, to leave her behind and forget I ever knew her. This betrayal cut deep. I kept asking myself what I did wrong, where I went wrong. Was it my fault for trusting her too much? Or was she just a manipulative bitch who played me for a fool? I know I need to decide what my next move is, whether to fight for the relationship or cut her out of my life completely. But right now, I'm just trying to breathe, trying to process how someone I loved could do this to me. It's like losing a part of myself. I don't have all the answers yet, but I know one thing. I'll never look at her the same way again, and I'll never forget what she did. Not ever. After that confrontation, everything felt like a blur. I remember standing there in our living room, staring at her, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Her face was full of that arrogant smirk, like she thought she'd gotten away with something, like she was the one in control. But I wasn't going to be played anymore. I knew I had to get out of that house, get some space to think. I told her I needed a break, that I couldn't stay in the same place with her after what I saw. She rolled her eyes and told me I was overreacting, that I was making a big deal out of nothing, as if the whole thing was just a tiny misunderstanding. I left her there alone and went to stay at my buddy's place for a couple of nights. I needed to breathe, to clear my head. But I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, the sick feeling that I'd been blind for so long. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. How could she do this? How could she cheat with my best friend, the guy I trusted most in the world? It was like stabbing me in the back with a knife, then twisting it just for good measure. While I was staying over at Ryan's house, I started piecing everything together. The subtle signs I ignored, the late nights, the strange messages on her phone. I remembered how she'd always be sneaky, quick to shut down when I asked questions. Now I knew why. She'd been planning this for months, hiding it from me, lying through her teeth. The thought made me furious. I kept replaying the moments I'd caught her lying, the way she'd try to manipulate the truth, spin her words like she was some mastermind. But I also felt incredibly stupid. How could I not see it? I thought I knew her. I thought she was the one. And Ryan, my best friend, we'd gone through so much together. It's like I'd been punched in the gut all over again. I couldn't believe they'd both betrayed me like this, the people I trusted most. I kept asking myself if I'd missed all the warning signs, if there was something I should have seen earlier. Maybe I was naive. Maybe I just loved her too much to see the truth. The next day, I decided I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I needed to face her again, to get some answers. I drove back to the house, my mind spinning with rage and heartbreak. When I saw her sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened, I lost it. I told her I wanted the truth. No more lies, no more bullshit. I demanded she tell me exactly how long this had been going on, who else knew what her plans were. Her reaction was classic. She started crying, acting like I was the bad guy, saying I was overreacting again, that I was just jealous and insecure. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I looked her right in the eyes and told her I knew she'd been cheating on me with Ryan right under my nose. Her face twisted into this snide expression, like she was enjoying watching me squirm. She kept denying it, claiming she'd never do something so reckless, so stupid. That it was just a mistake, that she loved me and only me. Yeah, sure, that's what she kept saying, but the evidence was all there: hidden messages, the pictures at the cabin, the hotel receipts. She thought she could spin her way out of it, but I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. That's when I realized I had to do something more than just be angry. I had to make a decision. I couldn't live like this, not after what I found out. I knew I couldn't stay with her, not after the betrayal. I wanted to hurt her the way she'd hurt me, but I also knew I needed to be smart about it. I needed a plan, something that would make her regret this, that would teach her a lesson she'd never forget. I started thinking about how I'd get back at her, how I'd make her see that cheating and lying have consequences. That's when the idea of revenge started forming in my mind, cold, calculated, cruel enough to match what she'd done to me. I decided I wasn't just going to walk away and forget about her. No, I wanted her to know exactly how much she hurt me, how badly she shattered what we had. I knew I had to be careful, that I couldn't let her see what I was planning until the right moment. The betrayal ran so deep, I wanted her to feel the same pain I was feeling, maybe even worse. I wanted her to realize that trust, once broken, can't be repaired so easily. This wasn't just about ending the relationship. It was about sending her a message that she'd regret for the rest of her life. That's what kept me up at night, how to make her pay for what she'd done. And trust me, I had some ideas brewing in my head, dark ones, but I wasn't ready to act just yet. I needed more time, more information, more control. And I knew deep down that this wasn't over, far from it. Would you like me to continue with part 3? After I left her that day, I knew I couldn't just go back to pretending everything was normal. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what my next move should be. I couldn't believe Ryan, my best friend, would do this to me, Betray me like that, cheat with my wife right under my nose. It was like some sick joke, only it wasn't funny. I felt humiliated, furious, and utterly betrayed. But more than anything, I felt this burning need for revenge. I didn't want her to just walk away from this without feeling something close to what I was feeling. That night, I stayed up late, going through all the messages, pictures, and everything I'd found. I reread the texts from Ryan, the ones where they talked about sneaking away, about their secret little weekend at the cabin. I kept thinking about that place, how it used to be ours, somewhere we'd go to escape the world, to connect. Now it felt like a scene from some twisted movie. The thought of them there in our cabin, doing God knows what, was enough to make me sick. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. It was a punch to my gut every time I thought about how they'd betrayed me. At some point, I started planning what I'd do next. I knew I couldn't just confront her again without a solid plan. I needed evidence, something irrefutable, something that would make her realize she couldn't lie her way out of it this time. I started gathering everything I could find, screenshots, recordings, even setting up hidden cameras at the cabin when I found out she planned to be there again. I wanted her to see she was cornered. I wanted her to realize the truth always comes out eventually, no matter how much she lied or manipulated me. I also reached out to some people I trusted, my cousin, a private investigator friend of mine, just to get advice on how to handle this. I wanted to make sure I wasn't making some impulsive mistake that could backfire. The last thing I wanted was to do something reckless and ruin everything. But deep down, I knew I had to act fast. If I waited too long, she might cover her tracks even more. I wasn't going to let her get away with this betrayal. I had to strike first, but carefully. Meanwhile, Jessica kept playing her games. She'd call me crying, saying she was sorry. At least that's what she wanted me to believe. She'd tell me she loved me, that she'd never do anything to hurt me, that she was just confused or under pressure. She'd lie about where she was, who she was with, even when I had proof she was lying. It was like talking to a wall. Every time she played the victim, I felt a mix of disgust and pity. She thought she could manipulate me, but I saw right through her. I knew her game, and I was ready to end it. The more I thought about her, the angrier I got. How could she do this? How could she cheat on me, my best friend, the guy who was supposed to be my brother in every sense? It felt like my world was crumbling, and I was left standing in the ashes. This whole thing was a wake-up call. I realized I had been blind to her true nature all along. She wasn't the woman I thought she was. She was just a bitch who used her beauty, her charm, to get what she wanted. And Ryan, he was no better. My best friend, my confidant, and he'd betrayed me for some quick sex and excitement. I started to think about revenge, how I could make her regret every single lie, every betrayal. I didn't want her to get away with it. I wanted her to feel the pain of knowing she'd lost everything. I wanted her to understand that trust, once broken, is impossible to repair. I knew I needed to be strategic, wait for the right moment, gather more evidence, and then strike. I wasn't just going to walk away defeated. No, I was going to make her pay in a way she'd never forget. So I kept planning, kept watching, kept preparing. I knew this wasn't going to be over anytime soon. Jessica's lies had only just begun to unravel, and I was determined to expose every single one of them. I wanted her to see that you can't cheat and lie your way out of the consequences forever. And I was going to be the one to deliver those consequences, cold, calculated, and unforgiving. That's what this was about now. Revenge wasn't just a feeling, it was my mission, and I was ready to see it through. Would you like me to continue with part 4? The days that followed were some of the most intense of my life. I threw myself into gathering every piece of evidence I could find. I set up hidden cameras at the cabin, hoping to catch her and Ryan in the act again, or at least get proof of their ongoing affair. I knew if I was going to make her regret this, I had to be meticulous. I didn't want to give her any room to deny or manipulate her way out of it once I confronted her again. While I was doing all of that, Jessica kept trying to reach me, acting innocent, pretending to be the victim. She'd call crying, saying I was overreacting, that I was paranoid and insecure. She'd say she loved me, that she'd never do anything to hurt me. It was all just a game to her, playing. The victim so I'd feel guilty and back off. But I saw through it every time. Her tears were fake, her words hollow. I knew her better than that. One night I decided I had enough. I couldn't sleep anymore, knowing she was probably planning her next move or, worse, already at the cabin with Ryan. I devised a plan to catch her red-handed. I called my investigator friend and asked him to stage a stakeout at the cabin discreetly so I could get undeniable proof of her and Ryan's ongoing affair. I also arranged to have a friend sneak into the cabin and set up some audio recording devices. I wanted to hear and see everything for myself. No more guessing, no more doubts. I needed hard evidence if I was going to end this once and for all. The moment I activated my plan, I felt a strange mixture of relief and anxiety. I knew I was close to finally catching her, but I also knew that when I did, everything would change forever. That thought made my stomach turn. Still, I was prepared. I wanted her to know that I wasn't some fool she could manipulate anymore. The following night, everything went according to plan. I got a call from my friend that the stakeout was in place. I was wired up, listening to the recordings through my phone, and then it happened. I heard her voice unmistakably, whispering sweet nothings to Ryan, her voice dripping with seduction. I heard her moan, felt my blood boil. She was doing it again, right in the same cabin, behind my back like I didn't matter. I could hear Ryan's voice, deep and confident, telling her how much he loved her, how they couldn't wait to be together. It was a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I was supposed to marry, was in bed with my best friend again. It wasn't just an affair. It was a full-blown betrayal, a deliberate act of treachery. I sat there, listening, feeling every ounce of rage and heartbreak swell inside me. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, the moment I'd finally get to show her that she couldn't lie her way out of this anymore. I took screenshots of the recordings, saved all the evidence, and prepared myself for the confrontation I knew was coming. When I finally confronted Jessica the next morning, she was still acting like she was innocent, like I was just overreacting. But I had the proof, screenshots of her messages with Ryan, recordings of her voice, photos from the cabin. She saw everything and her face went pale. She tried to deny it again, saying it was just sex, that she was confused, that I was crazy for thinking she could do something like that. Her lies sounded so weak now, so transparent. I looked her in the eyes and told her I knew everything, that I had the evidence and I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I told her she was done, that I was done. She screamed at me, calling me jealous, insecure, and crazy. She tried to guilt-trip me, said I was ruining her life, but I wasn't buying it. I was numb, cold even. I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish bitch who thought she could get away with anything. That day, I made my decision. I told her I was leaving, that I couldn't stay with someone who lied, cheated, and betrayed me like that. I packed my things, walked out of that house, and never looked back. The feeling of walking away, knowing she was finally caught, was strangely liberating. I realized I was better off without her, even if it hurt like hell in the moment. I knew I'd never trust her again, and I didn't want to. Looking back now, I see what I missed: trust, loyalty, honesty. All the things I thought I had but turned out were just illusions. She was a manipulative liar who used her charm to get what she wanted, and Ryan was just another weak guy who got caught up in her game. I learned a lot from this, especially about trusting my instincts and not ignoring the warning signs. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you who your real friends and partners are. If I could give anyone one piece of advice, it's this: never ignore the little signs. When someone starts acting secretive, defensive, or lies repeatedly, pay attention. Trust your gut, because once the betrayal becomes clear, there's no going back. And sometimes the only way to move on is to cut out the poison and start fresh, no matter how much it hurts at first. The aftermath of leaving her was a whirlwind. I felt a strange mix of relief and anger, relief that I finally had proof, and anger that I had been so blind for so long. The house was silent, cold, like a shell of what it used to be. I couldn't sleep for days. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smirking, heard Ryan's voice in the recordings, and remembered the moments I thought were ours. It hit me hard that the woman I trusted most in the world had been lying to my face for months. I kept replaying everything in my mind, trying to understand how I got here. How did I let her manipulate me so completely? Why didn't I see the signs? But the truth was, I'd loved her too much, and that love blinded me. I was so blinded that I ignored the small cracks until they turned into a canyon. Now I knew better. Love isn't enough when someone is wielding deceit like a weapon. I started to rebuild my life piece by piece. I cut off all contact with Jessica. She tried to reach out, begging, crying, promising things would change. But I was done. I didn't want her apologies or her fake tears. I wanted nothing to do with her. I blocked her number, deleted her from my social media, and moved out of the house. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of knowing she still affected me. No, I had to focus on myself now, on healing. But it wasn't easy. The pain lingered, especially when I saw friends or mutual acquaintances who still knew about the situation. Some looked at me with pity, others with judgment. I felt exposed, vulnerable. I questioned everything, my judgment, my trust, my own worth. But as the days went on, I started to realize that I had to accept what happened, learn from it, and move forward. I owed myself that much. One of the hardest parts was confronting the fact that Ryan, my best friend, someone I'd known for years, had stabbed me in the back. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind. We shared so many memories, so many moments of friendship, loyalty. And now I saw that he was just another weak person, just like Jessica, who let their selfish desires destroy everything good we had. That realization hurt more than the betrayal itself. I also had to face the fact that my wedding was off. All those plans, all the dreams of our future, gone, shattered by her lies. It was a tough pill to swallow, but I knew deep down I couldn't marry someone who didn't respect me, who didn't value honesty. I felt a mixture of shame and relief. Shame for trusting her, and relief that I was finally free from the chaos and the lies. I knew I'd never forget what happened, but I also knew I had to learn to forgive myself for trusting the wrong person. During this time, I started focusing on myself, getting back into shape, reconnecting with my family, and rediscovering what made me happy outside of the toxic mess I was in. I realized that I'd been putting her first for too long, and that I needed to prioritize my own happiness. It wasn't easy, and I still had days where I felt broken, but each day brought a little more clarity and strength. I learned that betrayal can be a wake-up call, not a life sentence. Now I look at everything differently. I trust fewer people, but I trust myself more. I understand that love isn't just about holding on, it's about respect, loyalty, and honesty. And if those things are missing, then it's better to walk away than to stay and suffer. I also learned that sometimes the greatest act of revenge is simply moving on and being happy without them. That's what I'm trying to do now. Build a better, stronger version of myself. One that won't be so easily broken again. And if there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this. Don't ignore the signs. Don't let love blind you to the truth. Because once trust is broken, it's almost impossible to fix. And sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. Would you like me to continue with part 6? Now looking back, I realize how much this whole ordeal changed me. It's like I went through a storm and came out colder, more cautious, but also more aware of what I deserve. I learned that no matter how much you love someone, if they don't respect you, if they're willing to betray you, then you're better off without them. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's damn near impossible to fix. But you can rebuild yourself stronger. Afterward, I've come to see that revenge isn't about hurting her anymore. It's about reclaiming my dignity and showing myself I'm worth more than someone who cheats and manipulates. The pain I felt, the heartbreak, the betrayal, all of that is part of my story now. But it doesn't define me. What defines me is that I chose to walk away, to start over, and to learn from this nightmare. I've realized that sometimes the best revenge is living well and showing that their betrayal didn't break me. It only made me more resilient. I don't harbor hatred for Ryan or Jessica anymore. I won't let their actions control my life. Instead, I focus on moving forward, on building a future that's rooted in honesty and trust, things they couldn't give me. I've started dating again, taking small steps, and I find myself more guarded but also more hopeful. I know now what I won't tolerate, and I won't settle for less. This experience has been brutal, no doubt about it. It hurt like hell, almost broke me at times. But in the end, it taught me the importance of self-respect and listening to my instincts. Never ignore those little warning signs because they're there for a reason. Don't be afraid to walk away from someone toxic even if it hurts, because staying will only hurt more in the long run. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, trust me, you're stronger than you think. It's okay to feel broken for a while. It's okay to cry, to be angry, to feel lost. But then pick yourself up, rebuild, and remember, your worth isn't defined by someone else's lies and betrayal. You deserve honesty, loyalty, and love that's real. The pain will fade and you'll come out the other side better. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find happiness again. I've learned the hard way that betrayal is a part of life, but it's also a lesson. A lesson that true strength isn't about never getting hurt. It's about how you rise after falling. And I promise you, when you do, you come out stronger, wiser, and more ready for whatever life throws at you.